the regular Board of Education regular meeting is Monday, July 13th at 6 p.m. The Board of Education makes available at least one current copy of the Open Meetings Act, which is posted on the west wall of the meeting room and accessible to members of the public. Will you please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance with me?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Next up, consent agenda. Do I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the consent agenda as presented. Approval of minutes of the regular Board of Education meeting on June 8th, 2026. Approval of the proposed accounts for payment. Approval of budgetary receipts and expenditures for June 2026. Approval of Committee of the Whole minutes June 22nd, 2026. Approval of option students. Approval of contracts for 2026 and 27, Karen Husa, preschool teacher, and excuse the absence of Doris Martin.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Eric. Jason, do we have a treasurer's report?
We do. So treasurer's report for June of 2026. General fund expenses, payroll was $1,911,032.33. Bills, $1,428,584.41, which brought total expenditures to $3,339,616 and change. Revenue this month, these are lean revenue months for us, so revenue was $1,424,519. Not shocking there. That's why we plan ahead. We are now 10 months through the budget cycle, or 83.33%. Through the budget cycle, we've expended 77.86% of our budget, which means at this point we're 5.44% underspent. We also know that July and August will be large expenditure months. It's also why we like to have that little cushion of underspent budget as we get into those months, just because of the many projects that will be wrapping up and the bills that will be coming in. I can tell you right now that we have a minimum of $500,000 of project-related bills that just didn't make this payroll or didn't make this bill listing that will make next month. So, but all in all, I would say good shape budget-wise. We just know our revenue will not be what it's always like that in July and August. So.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Are there any items that the board would like to pull off the consent agenda for further discussion? All right, seeing none, can I have your votes, please? Motion passes. All right, we'll move on to the information portion, starting with board reports. First up, Committee of the Whole.
And I am Doris Martin right now, so just want to warn you. Anyway, the Board of Education Committee of the Whole meeting met on Monday, June 22nd in the Administration Building boardroom. Mr. Alexander provided an update on the district's summer projects, including the middle school gym HVAC project, high school step repairs, painting at the high school, drainage improvements, etc. Dr. Nielsen presented the proposed revisions to the 2026-27 student handbook. She also presented a brief explanation of the proposed changes to the staff handbook. Mr. Alexander shared that there is a need for the space where the orchestra equipment is currently being stored, and he stated that Mr. Thompson is recommending that one or two of each instrument be retained for instructional demonstration purposes. And Mr. Alexander also shared an update on development or preliminary plans for a career and technical education facility in partnership with BCDM Architects. And he informed the board that the Nebraska Department of Education has approved the use of 10 passenger transit vans as long as they have the appropriate modifications. That ends the report.
All right, thank you, Janet. In place of Doris, you did a great job. All right, next up is the public forum portion, and we have one request for a speaker tonight.
I do have a quick handout for you guys, don't mind, okay? It'll just be basically what we're covering. Thanks for letting me have
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Jackie does have it on electronic form, so nobody can take any real type down or anything. Alright, get a quick timer going too, so I don't waste your time here. Alright, 5 minutes and we're going. Alright, thanks for having me over, guys. What you have in front of you is just some information I put together on the topic of middle school extracurricular activity eligibility. If you direct your attention to the bottom of the page first, here's a 20-year trend chart from Nebraska high school enrollment to total NSAA participation. And again, if we're talking NSAA, we're talking Nebraska Schools Activities Association. So not only your fall, summer, spring athletics, but also your music, speech, band, those activities as well. Okay, so what we have here is 20 years. 2006 to 2012, they trend nicely together. As student enrollment goes up, so does NSAA participation. You'll notice on the left-hand side you have your high school enrollment, and on the right-hand side you have your NSAA participation. The scales are different. That's because each student could, in theory, participate in 3 activities, so you could have triple the number of your enrollment. The graphs are overlaid nicely on top of each other so we can view the trend. This is a Google AI generated graph, but I did cross-check it with other references and at certain points to make sure that the macro trend that it's showing is accurate. So you'll notice after 2012, for whatever reason, whether it's sports specializations, more single sport athletes, whatever it is, enrollment continues to climb, but NSAA participation plateaus and then actually starts to decline. So we have an issue with participation. Now, you guys all know, and research is heavily on the favor of activities participation for our youth. Develops many core attributes that we find valuable as a community. So, as the policymakers, the question is, what can we do about it? And I'm going to suggest that at the middle school levels, there is something that you can consider to do about it. So, at the top of the page, the NSAA is experiencing record low participation when compared to student enrollment. Middle school activities participation is a feeder program for grades 9 through 12 NSAA participation. Encouraging middle school activities is the best way to increase NSAA participation. I'm here today to support a middle school policy handbook change that maximizes student participation. Now, before making a policy handbook change, we need to look at a few factors. This list is not exhaustive, but it is foundational. We'll look at legal, professional, and local. So on the legal side, this is a unique summer in the Nebraska legislature, and you guys are reviewing Policy 5004 of your own right now, which is directly tied to part-time enrollment, extracurricular activities, school boards. So that's what Nebraska's revised statute 792.136 is about. And if you go to paragraph 3, it talks about board policies. This is what we can and cannot do as a board. A, think high school, 9 through 12, it's regulated by NSAA. Beatrice Public Schools is a member of NSAA, and we are regulated by them in 9 through 12. C, think middle school, it's not governed. NSAA does not govern 9 through 12. So in the high school realm, we shall require 5 credit hours. In the middle school realm, we may require up to 5 credit hours. So there's a distinction when it comes to 7th, 8th grade, middle school activities, and 9 through 12. So we're talking here about middle school. We're talking about the may require. It's up to the board. You get to decide. So from the legal perspective, it's your choice. The professional side. NSAA does have middle-level activities bylaws. So they say, while we're not actually the governing body for you, if your school participates, we have some guidance for you. It's a 2-page document, it's a quick read, and this is the very beginning of their document. The primary goal, this is quote, the primary goal of 7th and 8th grade activity programs is participation. The purpose should be to encourage and promote participation of all students in a variety of activities. Every student who chooses to participate should be granted that opportunity. The NSAA gets that middle school is their feeder program. They want maximum participation in 7th and 8th grade. That's the only way, that's the most likely way to increase the numbers as we get to high school. Okay, what about the local perspective? This is from BeatricePublicSchools.org. Beatrice Public Schools' mission, our beliefs. Here's 3 statements I pulled out that I think are fantastic and applicable. We believe a strong school-community partnership is an investment in the future. We believe students deserve a positive culture that encompasses kindness and inclusion for all. And we believe a diversity of people, ideas, and experiences enhance a community. So in summary, a policy that allows maximum student participation in middle school activities is allowed by state law. It's encouraged by NSAA guidance and affirmed by Beatrice Public Schools' core beliefs. Therefore, I urge the board to adopt a 0 credit hour requirement for middle school activities. I believe this policy is in the best interest of the students, the school, and the community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
All right, we will now move on to the discussion portion, and we have a lot, so we'll move through them quickly. We will start with the first reading of policy 4171, regulation of certificated employees.
So, as you recall from the committee of the whole meeting, we talked about the policy confusion between 4165 and 4171, and just working with Justin Knight, our attorney from Prairie Law, he suggested rescinding policy 4165, working with you as a Board of Education who had terrific input at the committee of the whole meeting, and referring that to Justin, saying, here's what we kind of talked about, can you help us get that written in? We have a policy now, 4171, that incorporates that input from you, written by our attorney, that we would like to move forward as we move into the keeping 4171.
Okay, any questions? All right, next up, 6.2, second reading of policy 1110, bulletin boards.
So with these, would you just like me to roll right through them?
Yeah.
Okay. So 6.2, policy 1110, bulletin boards, makes it sound like it's dealing with bulletin boards in classrooms. It's really LB 429 that added new requirements for equal access to teachers by professional organizations. That bill that came out was pretty vague in the beginning. We have just received an email that kind of narrows it down to associations or professional organizations that deal more with education than everything. So, Janet, you were spot on when asking that question, and the legislature came through and did add some guardrails, if you would say, and we do have some of those in place. So, policy 1110 deals with professional organizations coming in and accessing teachers' email inboxes, but also the physical bulletin board that's in the teacher's lounge and who has access to that. Next one is second reading of policy 1121, which is open night. So this is the second reading. This is the policy that is designed to outline the board's expectation on Wednesday and Sunday, Wednesday night and Sundays. We've talked about this. This is not part of the annual update as submitted by Prairie Law. This is a local policy. But it's my understanding that this has been an unwritten policy for many years, that Wednesday nights from the beginning of religious education courses until, which is usually in September, through the school year until those classes are done, school-sponsored activities would not take place after 6:30 p.m. Limited exceptions have existed due to NSA-sponsored activities or cancellations or weather-related cancellations. I know at times this has been a question as to why certain things are being allowed to be scheduled, and I guess it's time to establish a policy to give it clear direction, if that's what the board would like to do, so we as administration can give clear direction. But for purposes of this conversation, basically we're saying that Wednesday nights after 6:30, no school activities. Sundays, not until after 2 p.m. would there be any school activities allowed, only in the cases of exceptions that are written into the policy as well. And those are in there for you to view.
Remind us, does it also give the ability for you as the superintendent to make an exception?
It gives me that ability in conjunction with the athletic director or activities director and the high school principal. We would converse and say, okay, do we need to do this? Is this something? Yeah. So it does give that.
And if there is an exception made, does it have to come to the board for approval?
It does not.
Okay, good.
So am I correct in stating that we are just putting in writing what we're already doing and just adding to the bureaucracy?
That's very accurate, yes.
Do we schedule a lot during the school year?
Actually, that's a great question. We did ask for Mr. Kaiser's, our activities director, help in coming up with a list. I hope you can see that. These are the list of things that have happened just in last year. So typically, the only things that have conflicted with the way we have practiced, our practice has been, are the things that are highlighted in yellow up there. So there's only been a handful
Yeah.
of conflicts. You know, some of those things are happening after 2 p.m. on Sunday already, which that fits within the policy that are up there, and some of them are, you know, happening before 6:30 on Wednesday. So to be honest, there's only about 5 that conflict with what we're doing.
Yeah, the highlighted ones are the ones that would have been in conflict. But yeah, I appreciate you putting that together. Thank you.
I did poll, as I mentioned before, other ESU 5 stance and Trailblazer conferences. Of the 12 of them that responded, or of the 26 of them that responded, 12 of them had similar policies, 5 had no policies, and 1 school just had a statement in their handbook. So don't know how much influence that makes.
Okay.
So again, this is second reading. The next time we have this discussion, we will have it to be a vote. Okay, moving on. Second reading of policy 3130, purchasing. The purchasing policy is an update. Basically, it's important to ensure that the boards have oversight of large purchases in the district while affording the administration the flexibility to make smaller purchases when needed. Policy 3130 does not delineate between purchasing products and expending district funds for ongoing services or renewal previously approved, such as bills, utility bills, insurance renewals, and so forth. To better address that distinction between these scenarios, each board may consider adopting policy 3130. Policy 3131, procurement. This is just a change in the micro purchase and simplified acquisition thresholds that are in place by the state government and policy that we have to follow. They're outlined within state statutes, so we have to follow them. It's just a change basically from $250,000 to $350,000 on informal simplified acquisition thresholds. Formal competitive solicitation procedures increased from $250,000 to $350,000, and then micro purchase procedures from $10,000 to $15,000. So they're just numerical changes within the policy that increase as the cost of things go up in our society. Second reading of policy 3132, internal controls, very similar. If the district receives any federal awards, grants, or other funds, the district will develop and maintain internal control policies that are required by law. Those law changes happened last spring, have to be updated for this coming fall. And again, just simply change the purchase amounts for micro purchase under $10,000 now changes to $15,000. Simplified acquisition from $10,000 to $250,000 and $250,000 now changes to $15,000 to $350,000. So again, that's all in the policy. Those are all numerical changes as required by state statute to be adjusted. Moving on. Second reading of policy 3560, records management and disposition, LB 596, just basically updated references in the record retention laws to better reflect current technology and electronic storage capabilities and allow us to keep things stored electronically versus keeping things hard copy paper-wise, which will help tremendously in the purchase of the number of file cabinets that are needed. Next one, policy 5004, full-time and part-time enrollment. LB 937, refine the part-time enrollment statute to provide greater flexibility for students participating in national and state activities such as FFA. This is kind of something that Brian was referencing in his comments, and essentially what it relates to is there's a different standard for our state association, which is NSAA guided activities, which requires 5 credit hours activity necessitated to participate in activity. But in certain organizations like FFA, it's not the same. And so what the bill did is say, if there's a national requirement, the student has to meet that national requirement, which I think for FFA is 3 credit hours. But the NSAA is 5, so just for nationally recognized requirements, a student that enrolls and wants to participate has to meet those national requirements and enroll in a class that will be up to that number of hours. So that's that change. Second reading of policy 5005, student residence, admission and contracting for educational services. LB 937 imposes a new requirement for school districts. Basically, in a nutshell, a student may not disenroll from school if that student is under investigation or student's parents are under investigation in a DHHS investigation situation of child abuse or neglect. So if that becomes a situation where DHHS contacts our principals, it says this student is under investigation, and the parent would have to call and say, I want to disenroll my student, we say, sorry, can't do that. And the investigation ensues. Second reading of policy in Appendix 5005, option enrollment. Basically, LB 653 amended the option enrollment statutes by requiring the automatic acceptance of siblings of option students currently enrolled in a district. So if a district has brother and sister in school and they have another sibling that wants to option in, the district has to automatically accept that option. Second reading of policy 5008, attendance. LB 937 amends the student attendance laws to provide that a documented absence from a credentialed health professional shall excuse a student's absence for that day and not count toward a student's truancy accumulation. So keywords there, credentialed health professional. Policy 5101, student discipline. A lot of changes in this policy. To sum it up, I know we've talked about this a lot, but it created an exception to the prohibition of the previous law that said kindergarten through second graders could not be suspended unless it was due to bringing a weapon to school. The legislature has decided that maybe there needs to be a statement in there about violent behavior, and kindergarten through second grade students that display violent behavior can now be suspended from school, as well as if they bring a deadly weapon to school. So that change is the first one. The second change really impacts how administrators communicate with parents in short-term, long-term suspensions and the guidelines that have to go along with that. So there's a lot in there. I'm not going to go through all the details of it. It's in the policy itself. You've probably read through it already, but it outlines the steps and the requirements, and it adds a couple things in there that will be required to do whenever there's a suspension. Second reading of policy 5205, graduation. Last year, LB 296 amended Nebraska's graduation statute to provide an exception for students who at some point during their high school career were under supervision of a juvenile court, and it incorporates the statutory exception that those students are eligible for graduation. Policy 5209, school library materials and parental access. We've been talking about this for 2 years. So basically, policy 5209 does two things. It requires a catalog of all books in the school's library be available for all educational decision makers of those students, and if they so decide to opt into being notified when their student checks out a book from that library, they can opt into that, and our system will send a notification to the parent that their student checked out such and such book, and we have that capability in place. So that was actually passed 2 years ago, but it doesn't go into effect until this year. Second reading of policy 8130, annual organization meeting. Basically, at your annual organizational meeting in January, each board shall approve and note in its minutes the designated method of giving notice, such as on the district's website or posting in conspicuous places with the district. Our practice has typically been posting of the notice in the Beatrice Daily Sun and on our school website, so we'll continue to do that.
Do they allow for social media yet
Um,
in the statute, or is that?
It does not specifically say social media, but I think they're considering school website social media. So, that's a great question. Policy 8342, designated method of giving notices. This is kind of different. LB 596 amends the Open Meetings Act notice requirements. Previously, notices of board meetings were required to be published in the newspaper with several exceptions. Now, notices of regular meetings only need to be published 4 times per year, so quarterly. Schools that wish to continue publishing monthly notices in the newspaper are free to continue doing so, but for those schools that do not want to be tied to a newspaper each month or don't have access to a newspaper each month, we're fortunate that we have one that does a very nice job and works with us very well. We have the ability to do that. So I think really this was designed for schools that don't have a weekly or daily newspaper and struggle to get those notices in. It was designed to give them a little more flexibility. So that's the second reading of all those policies.
All right. Any questions on all of those? Comments? All right, next up, handbook, middle school extracurricular eligibility. Dr. Nielsen.
Okay, perfect. So after our discussion at the June Committee of the Whole, we have brought a couple options to you. In front of you, you have a document that says PK-12 handbook, and you have blue, yellow. So the first option that we have on the table, after we met with Mr. Stengel, Mr. Alexander, and myself, we talked about what the direction the board charged us with, and so option number 1 is to leave everything as presented at the Committee of the Whole, which would mean that our homeschool students would be able to participate, taking 0 courses, 0 credit hours, but they would have to provide data from their homeschool courses for their grades, just so that we ensure that they are meeting that grade eligibility. So, in discussion, we also picked up that the board would like to maybe follow NSAA. And so option 2 would follow NSAA requirements. Option 2 would require a homeschool student to be enrolled in 1 course, so 5 credit hour course of their choice, and be in good academic standing in order to participate in activities in grades 7 and 8. So as we look at this, we will approve the handbook later on today, and so we need to determine which way are we going. Are we going with option 1 and leaving it as is in the handbook, or are we moving to option 2, where we will require at least 1 course and be similar to the high school at this point in time? So, any thoughts?
Yeah, I would say just my personal opinion is option 2, having the middle school at a minimum the same as the high school, with the following the NSAA requirements, and even my personal opinion, the NSAA requirements are very minimum. I think I asked the question is, our current high school students, what are the requirements throughout the day? So if it's Harrison Petrosky is in school and he's got a basketball game that night, how many periods of the day does he need to attend to actually participate in that game? And I believe it was at least 2 periods. So again, I think even the NSAA requirements are below what actually our normal student body requirements are. And so in my opinion, even on the high school level, I'm not saying we change that at this point, but middle school, high school, at a minimum, NSAA requirements for participation in activities.
I'd like to, first off, thank you, Brian, for being here tonight. And I'd like to say that Brian's son, who plays on my boys' basketball team, he is a leader. He's an outstanding young man. He leads by example. He's got class, character, poise, and it's contagious. And he makes everyone around him better, and with outstanding sportsmanship. And that's what type of students we need here at Beatrice Public Schools. And I can see the argument for both sides, but I'll tell you why I'm in favor of no classes for activities. I look at this, and I think we should all look at this as a board and see this as an opportunity, an open door for homeschool families before they get to high school to see what Beatrice Public Schools is all about. I respect the parents' choices to homeschool, and homeschools aren't going away. They're more prevalent than ever. They are still part of our community. They are taxpayers and still part of this district. So does this make our school more attractive or less? I believe it would be less appealing to homeschool families. My worry is that we will lose students to other districts offering 0 classes for activities in middle school, leading them to eventually go to high school. As a parent who at one time considered homeschooling my kids, I can tell you that some of the concerns that parents have with public schools, or their fears, those could be settled through our activities program if their child is involved, and if the students socializing with friends, with other friends, and the parents come into our schools, and the parents see their students in our schools and how they react, maybe some of those preconceived notions of public schools will go away. This is a tool that can be used to recruit kids and recruit families for the good of our community in public schools. Again, I agree totally, Mr. Trustee, that there's a valid argument, but at the end of the day, I think Mr. Single said there was only 1 or 2 families in our school that this would apply to. So is this really a hill that we really want to go die on? Let's be inviting and not put up a wall. I do not want this to be a reason why a family does not choose Beatrice Public Schools, and it could be. So let's not take that risk when most of the schools in our conferences, most of them, I believe, Mr. Alexander said had no classes required for activities, and I just asked that we would be more competitive.
Thanks, sir. Any other comments?
I'll say I concur with Eric Book on this. Partly, it's the easiest way that we can get students involved, and I say the smaller government is better. Fewer rules are better, unless there's a good reason to have rules. And I think let's invite these students in.
Okay, thanks, Charles. Any other comments? All right, thank you, Dr. Nielsen. And we will move on to the action portion. We will start with 7.1, reaffirm policy 5416, student fees and appendix 5416. Do I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 reaffirm policy 5416, student fees, and appendix 5416.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Eric. Mr. Alexander, comments?
Not a whole lot. That's what the hearing was for prior to the meeting. I think the policy is pretty clear. The fees are out there pretty clear. So again, a formality that's required by state that we review it, discuss it, you see it, and we vote on it.
Hey, real quick, one question. At what point would somebody pay tuition? It's on the fee schedule.
Preschool is one.
Okay.
And then there are other, at times there are other places where students from other districts may come to us that we can charge
Okay,
tuition for as well.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Alexander? All right, seeing none, can I have your votes, please? Motion passes. All right, next up, reaffirm policy 5415, anti-bullying. Do I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 reaffirm policy 5585, anti-bullying.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Eric. And again,
Yeah, so state statute 79.2, comma 137 just states that every school in the state will offer an anti-bullying policy in their schools and it must be reviewed annually. And as with all of our policies, these are policies that get reviewed, and if there's any changes that need to be made, our legal counsel will work with us and guide us through that. So we've done that. We're recommending the renewal or reaffirmation of policy 5415, the anti-bullying policy, so it's in place.
okay, thank you. Any discussion by the board? All right, seeing none, can I have your votes, please? Motion passes. All right, next up, reaffirm policy 6400, parental community involvement in schools. Do I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 reaffirm policy 6400, parental community involvement in schools.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Eric. And I think this is the special hearing we just had, so if anybody has any further questions for Mrs. Timmerman, please let us know.
I don't have any questions, but I would just like to say thank you to Mrs. Timmerman for putting this together, but also I'd like to thank our administrative staff, because I think last year there was a huge effort made in all levels to get more parents involved, and we saw that at the elementary level, which is pretty typical for parent-teacher conferences. We usually average almost 100%, if not, but we're not just talking parent-teacher conferences, we're talking EL nights, we're talking reading nights, we're talking all kinds of nights that are offered to parents to be involved. So thank you for that. And then at the middle and high school level, I know last year there was many changes made to get more parents involved, especially in parent-teacher conferences, and we did see that happen. The data proved that, and I know that there's more in the works for this year coming, so we're excited for that. But just a thank you to our administration for trying to, and doing things, coming up with creative ideas to get parents involved. So appreciate it.
Okay. Any more comments from the board? All right, seeing none, can I take your votes, please? Motion passes. All right, next up, rescind policy 4165, release from contract. Do I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 rescind policy 5003, assignment of students, grade placement and transfer students.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Eric. Mr. Alexander?
Nothing to add.
Okay. Any, excuse me, I'm losing my voice now. Any questions from the board? All right, seeing none, can I have your votes, please? Motion passes. It's a lot to read tonight, sorry. Next up, 7.5, approval of agreement with NCECBVI for special education services. Do I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the agreement with NCECBVI for special education services for the 2026-27 school year.
Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Eric.
I would actually ask that this is tabled just because the contract they gave us was a significantly larger amount of, it was just more than I expected, and I have questions that I haven't been able to get answered yet, so
Okay.
if you guys are okay with that. Because we're gonna have the same exact services, but like I said, it's a significant increase in the cost, so I need to do some more digging before
Perfect.
we approve that.
You can do
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
Can we amend the motion to table? Do we need to
I move that we table the motion until next meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Rick. All right, the original motion has had an amendment to be tabled. Can I have your votes, please? And it passes that we will table this to the next meeting. Thank you, Beth. Next up, approval of the contract with Nebraska Mental Health Center. Do I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the contract with Nebraska Mental Health Center for the 2026-27 school year.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Eric.
So basically, this is the same contract we've had with Nebraska Mental Health for the last several years. They provide mental health, 40 hours of mental health services for special education students, and then 20 hours a week, 40 hours of mental health a week, and 20 hours of school psychologist time a week. So we're just continuing on that contract for the 26-27 school year.
Okay, thank you. Any comments? All right, seeing none, kind of your votes, please. Motion passes. All right, next up, approval of the special education contract with ESU 5 for the 26-27 school year. Do I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the special education contract with ESU 5 for the 2026-27 school year.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Eric.
So this contract with ESU 5 would be the same that we have this year. They provide 1 day of a speech pathologist to help fill our need, 1 day a week. Then for physical therapy, they provide 2.5 days a week for our needs. And then it's a little bit less than 1 day a week for our hearing teacher.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, can I have your votes, please? Motion passes. All right, next up, approval of school psychologist contracts for the 26-27 school year. Do I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the contracts with Amy Daly, Maria Luisa Noble, and Don Ballou, for school psychologist services for the 2026-27 school year.
All right, thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Eric.
So these 3 contracts are pretty close to the same. Dr. Noble and Amy Daly both work 5 days a week, 1 FTE each. Dr. Vila had been averaging about 2 days a week. He just gradually is heading into retirement, so we're hanging on to him as long as we can. So he's just moving down to 1 day a week approximately. And Amy Daly is going to pick up some of the duties, the responsibilities that he had when he was 2 days a week. So,
That is an accurate statement.
yeah, we're just,
We'll hold on to him as
Yeah.
long as we can. He
Yeah.
is so good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the board? All right, seeing none, can I have your votes, please? Motion passes.
thank you.
Yep, thanks, Beth. All right, approval of student handbook. Do I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the 2026-27 student handbook.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Eric. All right. Dr. Nielsen again.
Okay, so the current handbook that we are approving currently has the 0 credit hour requirement for homeschool. There's a bunch of other changes that I will go through, but I do want you to know that the current one that you are approving, that the motion on the table is to approve it for the 0 credit hours for homeschool.
Okay.
So, some of the other changes, for the general, we did do an administration update because we've had administration changes. We reflected policy 5005 regarding DHHS investigations and moving with students, so we made sure that that was reflected. Acceleration, we also added a statement regarding acceleration of students. Just because we had retention, we needed to make sure we had acceleration in there as well. We added reference to policy 5209 for school library materials and parent access. We updated the lunch prices. We added a descriptor to heading PE recess. We talked about absences with everything else, but when we were talking about PE recess, we were talking about absences from PE recess needing that medical documentation. We also added 5601 to medication regarding asthma, anaphylaxis, and allergic reaction protocol, making sure that was updated and meeting our policy. The one thing that we have added are making sure that nuisance and recreational items, we specifically specify Nitos and dumplings, and I don't know if any of you went out and bought yourself one after the Cal meeting, but we did make sure that those are not brought to school. Personal items, we made sure that it's noted that with personal items, we are not responsible for personal electronic devices or personal items if they are damaged. Student discipline, we updated to reflect policy changes in 5101 in short-term suspension, long-term suspension, and expulsion to meet the policy that you will approve next month. We also updated the provider's note in that for absences and tardies, and that's referred to in policy 5008 that we talked about previously. In the preschool, we have added a statement about the importance of packing a balanced meal without sodas and sugary drinks under meals, and under water bottles, we've noted that water bottles should be filled with water and we should leave the energy drinks at home. In elementary, we added that, again, the meals, noting that we need to have a balanced meal without sodas and sugary drinks. Items from home, we stated again with elementary that Nitos and dumplings should stay at home as well. And water bottles, we noted that they should be filled with water. For the middle school, this is where we have the athletic extracurricular eligibility, adjusted it for homeschool participation. Right now it is set at 0 credits, but they would then be required to bring us their academic performance to meet academic eligibility. And then the middle school addendum, the water bottles would also, that they should only be filled with water. For the high school addendum, the eligibility procedures and activity eligibility policy, we moved it to 1 or more classes rather than 2 or more classes that our students need to be, that if they were failing 1 or more classes, they would not be eligible to participate. So it was 2, we dropped it down to 1, we wanted to make sure the rigor was there. We also added parameters to the ineligibility parameters and made sure that that teacher voice was also present, that teachers did have that discretion to address concerns, especially if students were ineligible, but this field trip that we were taking absolutely was a grade, so we needed to make sure that that child was still eligible to take that field trip. And then we also added a statement about temperature and baseball competitions, making sure that if it was too cold out at the baseball field that we did not have practices or competitions at that point in time. And for the transportation handbook, we updated the links in there to make sure that we got the 26-27 handbook. Any questions regarding the handbook changes?
Thank you, Jackie.
You're welcome.
Any other comments from the board? I will just add, on the middle school participation, as I don't necessarily, as I stated earlier, agree with it, but I do take into account what Mr. Rickenberg and Eric Book did say and we have seen NSAA participation decline significantly over the past few years. We can look at, specifically girls sports and even some of our programs at the high school and so forth, and really kind of thinking about it, it's obviously the hope is potentially, as Eric said, if we get some of the middle school kids participating, that they'll continue on in high school, and I guess in my opinion the hope is that then they would just continue to enroll full-time at the public school. And so I think along those lines, as I don't want to see high school activities, and I'm not just talking sports, but all around, decline significantly, and it moves to a full club level, and there's no longer high school football, and it's now club or basketball or volleyball or whatever that may be, which I'm afraid is if participation continues to decline, that could be maybe not in our lifetimes, but in the next 5 to 10 years. So. In the middle school, if we're able to get a few more kiddos to participate, which we have a pretty good participation rate in middle school, but listening to what Brian and what Eric said, I would change my opinion on the middle school, not necessarily the high school. I still think you definitely have to follow NSA guidelines, which I still think are limited because it somewhat discriminates between our full-time students and compared to the homeschool students, but that's really not our guidelines. So I would, I would vote to approve this at this point. That's my opinion. Any other comments? Or is it just me talking tonight? Okay.
I would like to make a comment. So many times, maybe this is just me expressing my old age, but so many times in the experience that I've had in 25 years of being a superintendent, boards of education, these types of topics can sever the relationships and can sever the forward-moving progress of a board of education. And Brian, thank you so much for your approach with us, because I can say I think that makes a big difference too, is how you as a parent or a citizen approach the board or approach us, and you've been fabulous in communicating back and forth and sending thoughts and ideas, so thank you for that. But also I want to say thank you to you as a board, because I think it says, it just speaks volumes and mountains about what kind of board you are, to be able to have this conversation civilly, respectfully, and at the end of the day, whatever the vote may be, and we haven't taken it yet, I know you're going to walk out of here and you're going to be okay to come back to the next meeting without a bunch of fighting or other things taking place. And so I just want to say thanks, because that makes my job a lot easier, and I appreciate all of you for it. So.
All right, thanks, Jason. All right, can we have your votes, please? And motion passes 6-0. Thank you. All right, next up, approval of staff handbooks. Do I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the 2026-27 Classified Staff Handbook, 2026-27 Certificated Staff Handbook, and the 2026 Substitute Handbook.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Eric. All right.
Okay, so there are quite a few similarities between all these handbooks. What was changed, and there was not a lot. But one of the things for the substitute handbook that is different than the others is that we added parameters regarding paraprofessional substitute expectations. As we were told from the state, a paraprofessional is a paraprofessional is a paraprofessional. We heard that multiple times as we look at that staff reporting and how I have to report staff. So if I sub and I'm a paraprofessional sub, I have to be highly qualified. So that means that the expectation is noted in that handbook that they have to be highly qualified. For the substitute, for the certified and for classified, we updated the dress code to make sure it was a little bit more modernized perspective. And then we also added that statement regarding personal property, that if you bring your phone to work and it is sitting out and it accidentally is damaged, it is not the responsibility of the district.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Can we wait for Brandon?
You want me to change this to abstain?
Yeah, probably.
All right, can I have your votes, please? And motion passes 5-0 with one abstain. Next up, approval of first student addendum. Do I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the addendum to the contract with First Student for the 2026-27 school year.
All right, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Eric. Mr. Alexander?
Just a little bit about this. The actual addendum looks very similar to as it has in the past. We are currently pricing 12 routes, whereas last year we had 13. And that is just on the basis of what we saw trending towards the end of last year. And then as we have open transportation and seeing requests come in, it never fails that a week before school starts, we have a flurry of requests come in. So we're still anticipating that, but we think that there's a strong possibility we can provide the transportation with 12 routes, which comes with a price of $76,406 a month. So it is pricey. When you average that out, and we're on a 10-month contract, that's $764,608 a year for transportation. When you are not required as a Board of Education, and I will say this until I'm gone, you are not required as a Board of Education to provide that transportation to everyone. You are only required by state statute to provide it to 4 miles and more. So what that means, it's actually 3, but it says on the 4th mile, so it's a little bit ambiguous there. But what that means is that you are providing a service in town, which is fine, I'm not in disagreement with that, but it takes money to provide that service, which takes taxpayer dollars to provide that service. So it is a service that can be cut. It's a service that can be eradicated. That's $764,608 per year. A portion of that could be reduced by not providing transportation to people that don't live more than 3 miles. So I want that to be clear and on the record for purposes of who's ever watching and everybody out there. I know taxes are not a favorable thing, but taxes provide a service, and this is one of the services that we provide.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Any other comments from the board? All right, seeing none, can I have your votes, please? And motion passes. All right, next up is discuss, consider, and take all necessary action with regard to appropriation of funds for a real estate purchase from the district and authorizing a lease agreement with the Southeast Nebraska Education Agency for a new elementary school building and equipment and related matters. Do I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 hereby ratifies, confirms, and reaffirms the lease dated June 1, 2022 with the Southeast Nebraska Education Agency, as more specifically provided in the attached resolution incorporated into this motion by reference.
Okay, a motion and a second, please.
Second.
Second by Eric. Jason, anything to add to this? Is it
Just in a nutshell, it's a formality we have to do every year to reaffirm the 7-year lease that helped us build the elementary school.
okay? Any questions from the board? All right, seeing none, can I have your votes, please? Motion passes. All right, next up, sale of various orchestra equipment. Do I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the sale of various orchestra equipment.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Eric. Jason?
Just again, Mr. Thompson, noticing that we could gain some extra space for things that we need it for. If we sell some of this orchestra equipment, so that would be the plan. With your approval, is to sell some of it, also to keep a few instruments back of each different kind to be able to introduce students to as needed in band.
Okay. Any questions? All right, seeing none, can I have your votes, please? Motion passes. All right, next up, approval of repairs at Beatrice Middle School. Do I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the quote, in parentheses 251726, from Prairie Mechanical for repairs at Beatrice Middle School, passed with a motion, middle school.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Eric. Anything to add there, Jason?
Yeah, so this is a unit that we've kind of put on the back burner of fixing until we got to the end of the budget cycle and could see where we were at dollars wise and what it was going to take. To get a new unit is going to cost $33,215. So this is a compressor coil inside the unit we can replace for $13,873. So it needs to be fixed. We went through the spring and we got lucky in the spring that it was the spring it was, and we were able to get through without fixing it, but we need to get it done. So it's one of those things that it's good timing for us to do it right now.
Okay. Any questions? All right, seeing none, can I have your votes, please? Motion passes. All right, next up, approval of architect agreement for career pathways building. Do I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the agreement with BCDM for a career pathways building.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Eric. Mr. Alexander?
So we've been talking about the idea of a career pathways building or a career technical education building out at the high school for some time now, and kind of been trying to figure out what all that's going to take. We have a vision, but it oftentimes takes the skills of an architect to put that vision on paper and then tell us exactly what we're looking at. So We have been working with BCDM. We have some schematics here for you that are of basic nature. We want to share tonight. This is, and approve the agreement that they would design these for us. So they've been working on it with us. Basically, this Career Pathways building, the idea is that it's a large metal building right now. It's 40,000 square feet. So to put that idea in your head, that's roughly the size of a football field. I think maybe it's a little on the big side right now. So we're dreaming big, which is a good thing. And it gives us an opportunity to maybe reduce things if we need to. But this Career Pathways building would be out at the high school. It would sit, if you want to go back to that first one, it would sit right as you come off of Scott Street. You can see the speed bumps there on the left. It would sit right in that spot, in that empty spot out there. Now, why was that site selected? Well, we went through multiple different selection ideas. That site was selected because there used to be an old house that sat there, so there's a lot of utilities that are in place there. It's also in close proximity to the parking lot, so it makes some sense. We might in the future have to add some more parking spaces there or put some gravel in, whatever the case may be. But it also is a quicker walking distance from the front door of the high school to that spot and back. So that's why that spot was selected. And you as a board absolutely have the right to say, no, we want it somewhere else, but that's kind of what we thought made the most sense. In the Career Pathways building, there are basically 4 quadrants. It's broken into 4 quadrants. Agricultural education in the upper left. We have constructions, wood, woods, plumbing, electrical, all those things would be able to be taught in there, and it's big enough that our students could actually frame sheds, even frame the walls of a house and move those out. There are schools that do that. So it's big enough that it can be done in that spot. The lower right is welding and manufacturing academy, so that would be where our kids could weld. Right now we're welding flatbed trailers that we can only go so long because of the length of the building that we're in. If we get a bigger building, we can weld those, we can sell them, we can work with community members to build them for them, so on and so forth. And then over on the left,
Automotive.
thank you, is automotive. My eyes are going bad. Automotive laboratory or academy would be basically an area where we'd have lifts, all the things that we have currently, and hopefully be able to add in some automotive things. So in the middle, you have a classroom attached to each one of those larger shop areas, and then you have a series of restrooms. You have an office for each instructor out there, and then there's also kind of a small conference room up in the front that would involve the ability to do Zoom meetings or meetings like this if they wanted to do a Zoom class or whatever the case may be, or distance learning class from a college or whatever they may have on the docket. Storage is obviously part of this. Large garage doors that can move large equipment in and out are obviously on each end as well, in each the quadrants necessary. So we've worked closely with the instructors. They have not seen these schematics yet, just because we just got them Friday. So I think they'll be excited when they get a chance to see them. We have a lot of work to do. The idea is to talk to people about donating to this. So there's plans in place for that are in the works. But right now, we just needed to get this to you to show you what the drawings look like, to be able to approve the agreement with BCDM and the work that they have done thus far to move forward.
And I think just so everybody's clear, we're not approving to build this building today. We're
No.
just approving for architectural drawings, which then will help us start to get cost estimates and make further decisions on whether it's moving forward or not and so forth, so.
Appreciate that clarification because you are spot on. Yes.
Okay, any other questions from Jason? All right.
I just want to say, not only do I love this idea, but
I'd love to see, you know, maybe enough space for some plumbing or electrical or what, I mean, I think it's great. I don't know.
Appreciate that. It's something that we know we need, and every year, here's some important information for people that are watching. Every year we turn kids away in all 4 of those areas because we don't have enough space for them to take the class. And that's nobody's fault. I'm just saying that we have at least a dozen kids in every one of those classes, or classes that are offered in those areas that we have to turn kids away from because we don't have the space to have them in there. So this would allow that to happen. Appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. Can I have your votes, please? And motion passes. All right, next up, approval of van purchase. Do I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the purchase of a 10-passenger Ford Transit van.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Eric. Anything to add on that, Jason?
Not really. It's just, as perplexing as it is to all of us, we've gone from not being able to buy these vans to now we can. And so we need to, because we need to replace vans. So
Desperately.
yeah.
All right, any other comments on the van purchase? All right, can I have your votes, please? All right, motion passes. All right, next up, approval of staff training resolution. Do I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the 2026 staff training resolution as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Eric. And Dr. Nielsen.
So in front of you, you have the resolution with all of the staff trainings, and we are required yearly to approve the staff trainings. And one of the things that the legislature notes is that the staff trainings have to be reasonable in length. And so they are as reasonable as we can make them. There have been new trainings that we have had to add based upon the legislature and also based upon NDE requirements. So for example, that behavioral awareness and intervention, that is a new piece that we have added for our staff. The other piece that we have added as well is at the very end when we look at that science of reading, the literacy training, that we know is a piece for PK through grade 3. We will, though we are training everyone, and we'll be training everyone in literacy strategies, and so we're going over what is required, but those are the trainings that we will be doing this year.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments?
There's a lot.
All right, seeing none, can I have your votes, please? Motion passes. All right, lastly, administrator's report. Mr. Alexander, we will start with a budget preview.
I'm going to keep this very short because you have done an excellent job tonight and been very patient with everything that we had on the agenda. So essentially, what I can tell you right now is the budget. I've been through it one time, so it's very preliminary from the standpoint of numbers, our estimates, and really at this point, until we know valuation and until we know real growth values, which come from the county assessor on August 20th. Obviously in August I'm going to give you a more thorough update, but I can tell you that our state aid goes down about $460,000. I can tell you that our taxing authority is roughly $422,000 more. So there's a gap there that we have to think about. We'll have discussions about that and what we should do with that as it comes closer. But until we have those numbers to really tell us where we are, it's hard to give you a real finite example. I can tell you that in the preliminary discussions with the county assessor, and I think it's been fairly well noted on social media, valuations are looking like they're going to go up. At what percent, we don't know yet. But the real factor is going to be real growth in how this is determined because of the LB 243 that was passed 3 years ago. So that's a huge part of it. So I'll just stop there from the standpoint of there's a lot yet to be determined. Our budget authority did go up from 34 million to 36 million for next year. We have never even come close to spending that amount of money, not even 34 million. So we will build the budget to reflect the ability to spend that amount. You always do that in the event that you have an emergency situation occur and you need that budget authority, but we have never, like tonight in the treasurer's report, you heard me say, we're 5-point-something% underspent in our budget authority. That's what that means. So that's where we're at. I will give you a more thorough update in August as it gets closer, and maybe county assessor can help me out with some closer numbers so it's a better estimate as to where we are. The only other thing I will tell you is right now we're working on a grant with the city. It's an SVPP grant, School Violence Protection Program grant. And I just want to thank the city for reaching out and working with us on this. A lot of the things we're writing the grant for will go into the concepts of video surveillance, updating doors and locks at the middle school that all desperately need some attention, and then some various other needs within the district that we need to update for surveillance and prevention of any type of anything that could occur that includes violence in our schools. So met with the city this morning and have been working with grant writers, and it's been great. So just I want to say thank you to the city for their help on that as well, and we'll keep you updated as to how that comes out.
Okay. Any further questions for Jason? All right. Seeing none, next up, notification of next meeting. The next regular meeting of the Board of Education will be August 10th, 2026 at 6 p.m. in the Administration Building. There will not be a Committee of the Whole meeting in July. An agenda for the meeting, which shall be kept continually current, is readily available for public inspection at the Superintendent's office during normal business hours. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 adjourn.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Rick. Your votes, please. We are adjourned. Thank you.